Good evening. This is Quintus Curtius here, and this podcast is going to be about how you can't stampede people. How you can't stampede people. And what I mean by that is how you can't force people to do things that you want them to do. You have to let them do things in their own time, or not at all. And the subject came up when I received an email a few days ago from a female reader here, a very nice girl. And without giving too many specifics about her email, she's a conservative young woman in her early 20s from an Asian country, and she's dating an American man, and they're both about the same age. And the gist of the issue that she had, and she contacted me for, was that it looks like she is focused on, getting married, starting a family, getting her life kind of in order. And the young man in question here seems a little bit ambivalent. He seems to be putting her off with, things like, I don't know what I want. I'm still need time. I don't really know what's going on. Blah blah blah. Basically, he's putting her off. He's putting her off. And her question is, she's basically saying, look, I really like this guy. I really like him a lot. Should I wait? Should I give him time to figure out things, or should I kind of move on? How do I deal with this uncertainty? That's really her question. Okay. And sometimes you get emails like this. Young people just kind of, they just basically need somebody to talk to. They're kind of, confused about things. They just need maybe sort of an older brother or a kind of a neutral uncle or whatever to kind of talk it over, who's not going to judge them, who's not going to get in their face, and who can give a dispassionate, maybe a second opinion on things. And so that's fine, because, we were all in this situation once. We were all young once. And, when you get emails like this, it's kind of touching in some ways, because it just lets you know that just human nature never changes. It's the same things that this young girl is dealing with. I can imagine, girls that I had gone out with, decades ago may have been dealing with the same thing. So I understand. And, these are my thoughts. So first of all, I think the first observation we can make from this email, it just kind of shows that in general, it seems to be true that women in general mature faster than men do. That's seems to be an accepted fact of physiology and biology. That women seem to want to settle down quicker. They want to get a family started. Their biological imperatives are calling out. And men, on the other hand, seem to take a little bit longer to mature. And that's fine. I mean, that's just the way biology is, and we're not going to change that. And so this type of, you often see this type of dynamic. You have a girl who wants to kind of get things rolling, and you got a guy who essentially is still interested in, dare I say it, playing the field, kind of getting his life in order. And, there's nothing wrong with that, because, in today's world, in order to provide, a man has to be established. A man has to be able to be financially responsible for all of the various things that are going to come up when you're trying to raise a family. So there's nothing wrong with that per se. Early 20s is still pretty young. Okay, so that's one thing. And then the second thing that I think we can note from this email is that she's wondering what to do. What do I do? How do I talk to him? How do I do this? How do I do that? And the reality is there isn't really much you can do. This is what I would say to this young girl who I know is listening. I would tell her, look, you can only do so much. You can't, one of the myths out there is that we can sort of reach down into someone's mind or someone's life and sort of wave a magic wand and make them do what we want and make them see the light and get them to move in the direction we want them to move in. It just doesn't work that way. All In fact, I would go so far as to say that you just can't win people over. You know, either someone is ready to do something or they're not. Either someone likes you or they do not. Either someone is ready to, move in the same direction or they are not. You're not going to win over. You're not going to convince someone. You can't really, stampede people. And when I say stampede, I mean that's a word that means to cause a large mass of living things to move in one direction that you want them to, and it all at once, en masse. And it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You're not going to talk this guy into doing something he doesn't want to do. So this is what I would say to this girl is, look, what just from what you've told me, it's clear that he's putting you off. He's not ready to make a commitment. He's not ready to do what you want him to do. So you can't, stay there and try to talk him into it. Depending on what your goals are. If you have a personal goal and you really want to get married very, very quickly, then frankly you're going to have to move on and find someone else. But if you are willing to wait for this guy, that's fine. What you should do, I think, is just sort of back away, give him his space, leave him alone. Don't be, jumping down his throat. Don't be pestering him. Don't be pressuring him, because guys don't like that. Let me just tell you, guys, there's one thing that men just hate is when they feel like they're being given ultimatums. When men feel like they're being pressured, when men feel like they're being given ultimatums, and to a woman, this may seem harmless. They may not even know they're doing it. And I think this is one thing I've noticed with a lot of girls is they don't even know when they're doing it. What they think is normal and acceptable behavior, may not be viewed the same way to, another guy. And especially I think you've got some cultural, that's sort of the third thing that I was going to get. I think there's some cultural dissimilarities here that I think need to be taken into account. This young man is an American, and this girl is from a conservative Asian country. I will not give the name of the country, but it's a conservative, religious Asian country. And right away there, I think you've got some real differences there in the way marriage is viewed. I think in more traditional cultures, getting married is sort of an automatic thing. A lot of the marriages are arranged. It's considered to be no big deal. You just do it and you just get on with it. America is very different in that respect. And when it comes to marriage, America, especially within recent decades, things are just different. Generally, I think the statistics bear this out, that in America, people tend to be getting married at later ages. When they're in their maybe later, I don't know what the median age is, but it's certainly not, I don't think it's in the early 20s. I think it's much more late. It's much older, probably 30s, mid 30s, I would guess. But in any case, it's not something that people just enter into automatically, because the rules, because the American society is very, very secular these days. It takes time to find people that kind of have the same view of life as you do, and it's just not easy. In traditional religious-based cultures where everybody knows the rules, where everyone knows what's expected of them, in some ways things are a little bit easier. Okay, so I think it's important, for these cultural differences to be talked about a little bit, because I think that she's maybe downplaying a little bit of that. So that's my answer. I really think, I would really tell this girl, if she was sitting in front of me, there really isn't much you can do. Sometimes you just can't do much. Sometimes you just have to let things take their course. Sometimes you have to listen to what people are telling you, and you have to accept that, and you have to live with that. So, I think that if you really, really are, committed to this gentleman, this young man, maybe give it some time, back away, observe, play a little bit, kind of hard to get, for lack of a better phrase. Leave him alone, give him his space, and see what happens. Maybe, touch back around in a couple years. And if nothing happens, then it just wasn't meant to be. There isn't much you can do. And if you really are serious and committed to getting married, you may just have to move on and find someone else. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts for what they're worth. So anyway, I hope everyone listening has this is the first podcast of the year, 2023. I hope everyone has a good new year. And I hope you all just keep the morale up, keep the fire stoked, and you keep on crunching. All right, Quintus Curtius, good night.